All right, guys, welcome to the very first episode of the Elevate My KBB podcast. I'm Jacob Iwo, I'll be your host, and this podcast is all about giving you guys kind of real, actionable sales and marketing insights to help you grow your remodeling company. And if you run any type of home improvement business, you'll find a ton of value here too. So for this first episode, I wanted to kind of give you guys a, surface level look at, to me, one of the biggest topics that we'll actually be discussing on this podcast, which is optimizing your sales systems. Because if your sales systems isn't built correctly, you'll kind of always feel like, you need more leads to grow, when in reality, it's just because you guys are kind of leaking revenue. So today, we're going to cover 3 of the biggest issues that I see in remodeling company sales systems, why speed to lead is going to kind of make or break your close rate, how failing to kind of track your marketing is costing you guys thousands, and why focusing on retention and referrals is the easiest way to grow. So let's kind of get into it. So as we spoke about, the first kind of key topic is speed to lead. And for you guys, again, I'm assuming for a lot of you guys watching, you guys have heard this term before, but speed to lead is kind of the idea of getting, communicating with leads that come in as quickly as possible, right? And the reason for this is because that kind of initial interaction with a potential customer is really going to set the tone for the entire sales process, right? Having that kind of positive first impression is really, really important, right? As everyone says, first impressions are an essential part of all parts of life, and you never get to do it again, right? And however positive or negative that first impression is going to influence whether, that homeowner is going to even just proceed with your company, right? Because at the end of the day, your prospects, realistically, they're going to contact multiple contractors. And many times they end up working with the one that responds first. Now, again, in the remodeling space with kitchen and bathroom renovations or bedroom renovations or, full house renovations, it's a slightly longer sales cycle, right? So it's not a case of whoever gets back first gets the job. Like, for example, if you do, window cleaning or you're like a pest exterminator, right? But at the end of the day, the researchers found that leads that are contacted within the first 5 to 10 minutes are 21 times, I believe, or around there, more likely to, convert than those that are contacted after an hour. And as the time goes on, that gets worse and worse and worse and worse. So, many of the top companies will look to contact leads within a minute, within 2 minutes of them hitting the CRM, right? And, as we move into the future, and even today, especially with kind of the AI capabilities that, you guys, as much as I know AI scares a lot of people, you guys should definitely be kind of staying on top of. Being able to contact leads within that timeline is going to become more and more of a must, because, at the end of the day, the consequences that come from not actually, doing this and having that speed to lead really set within your company, it means your prospects, they're going to, lose interest, or they're just going to choose another competitor. And as we said, after an hour, that lead engagement drops off. And after 24 hours, it absolutely falls off a cliff, right? If you are someone who's, your company phone is ringing, but they're out the office and it takes you guys, let's say it's a weekend and it takes you guys, 24 hours or more to get back to that lead. Again, please message me, drop a comment somewhere on the video or whatever. If you guys are seeing it different, let me know. But I have never come across a company that is consistently reaching out to leads, after the end of the weekend and seeing success across any industry, right? So, a structured kind of follow-up system, right, is going to include, making sure that you, have, immediate responses, right? So ideally you want to reach out within the first 5 minutes, even better if it's within the first kind of 1 to 3, right? And that's going to increase that conversion likelihood. Making sure that if you are using kind of any AI or anything of that nature, that it's actually personalized, right? We're in kind of a phase where AI is new, but it's not new enough people don't know about it. So if you're just kind of sending out the same kind of standardized message every single time that's not personalized, people are going to know that you've got some sort of automation in the background. And again, people engage with people, right? That's probably not going to change anytime soon. Hence why AI is trying to replicate people as closely as possible. And then, in my opinion, ideally, you want to have multiple outreach methods because everybody's a bit different, right? Some people look at their text more. Some people look at their emails. Some people, use their phones, and especially within this industry where you can separate yourself, especially as, over the next 5 to 10, with each passing year, there are more kind of social media minded people like myself who are coming into, being homeowners, starting to do renovations in their house, right? So a way to kind of, separate yourself from the crowd is maybe you send a text, an email, a phone call, and maybe you also connect with them on social media. There are tons of things out there that can kind of match emails and names to an Instagram or a Facebook or a Twitter profile, and you'll be able to reach out to them on these platforms, right? So, in order to have that speed to lead, for me, I personally believe that at bare minimum, there should be some sort of automation in the process, whether there's an automated message that goes directly to the customer, or if you're very big on having people reach out, which again, I also think you should have an automated message go to your sales reps, right? And again, a lot of these, I've spoken about AI a couple of times already, but a lot of these AIs can figure out based off of, your sales reps' calendars, which ones are most likely to have the availability to be able to reach out at that time, and it'll be able to do that, right? So that kind of goes into the second kind of best practice, which to me is making sure that you're assigning, dedicated sales reps or lead managers who, in an ideal world, if you have the team space, you want to have people who are specifically, their job is to deal with incoming inquiries quickly, right? So in an ideal world, you have a call center, right? Who the call center will deal with calls, but also, they'll deal with, let's say, for example, you have an automated SMS that goes out. When that individual replies, you'll have an individual within your call center team that deals with SMS replies, right? So they can kind of nurture that lead to then book them into an appointment to be able to then, call them to then book them into an appointment to go into the home, right? That's kind of that multi-layered approach that will be able to help you guys kind of, again, really figure out that speed to lead process. And the last thing is making sure you have clear training and scripts to be able to make sure that your team not just quickly engages, but they quickly engage correctly so that they can book those consultations, right? And that's going to be through scripting and training, right? If you don't have scripts, if you're just kind of having people call, yes. If you have great A players in your team and you've been able to be lucky enough to either find them or you're able to pay A players enough to come have them in your team, then, you may be able to get away with it. But an A player with a script that is standardized and we know works is likely going to be better than just an A player with no script, and is certainly going to be a lot better if they're kind of even B or C players who you don't necessarily want to be kind of doing their own thing and just going off the rails, right? So again, the first topic and, one of the biggest kind of issues that I see within remodeling companies is this speed to lead, making sure that you're able to reach out quickly. And if you're not, again, the proof is going to be in the pudding for some of you people watching this video. You're going to kind of think to yourself, look, we don't have particularly good booking rates. We don't have particularly good contact rates for our leads. I'm telling you, that's a speed to lead issue. So now that we've established that, the second kind of key topic for me is making sure that you're tracking marketing performance, right? So a lot of contractors, at least, that I've seen, they lack a reliable way to actually track that data and their campaign ROI, right? So if you don't have that data, it's going to be very difficult for you to identify which marketing efforts are actually, delivering the best results. And therefore, what I've seen, and again, some of you guys may relate with this, a lot of people kind of rely on a gut feeling, right, to actually know what's working best. Some people believe that, their direct mail campaigns are performing the best. And again, in 2025, direct mail is definitely a strategy that is underutilized. I don't necessarily recommend direct mail if you're kind of reaching out to people for the first time. I think there's more efficient ways to do that. But I digress. There's people that will believe that Google works better than Facebook and Reddit ads are the best way to go. But what that doesn't always account for is, yes, maybe on Facebook you get cheaper leads than Google, but when you actually take a look at the full funnel, your Google ads may be producing a lower cost per acquisition than Facebook, for example. And, with that being said, if you are either, using the technique of just kind of spreading yourself wide, so you're kind of seen in every channel, or you're kind of funneling money into kind of that gut feeling channel that you feel good about because you're seeing, let's say, leads come in on a daily basis and you think that's good. It means that your marketing spend could be kind of just allocated in an inefficient way, right? And all that's going to mean is it's just going to mean your costs are higher, right? Because as a marketing agency, for example, if we just run your Facebook ads and we get a good result for you guys, that's great. But as the owner of a remodeling company, when you're talking about cost per lead, when you're talking about cost per acquisition, you can't just look at Facebook and say, oh, all of that other stuff doesn't matter. Your cost per lead is going to be across all of your marketing channels. Your cost per acquisition is going to be across all of your marketing channels, right? So those inefficient campaigns are being maintained. They're causing your overall sales system to underperform because your leads are very, very expensive, right? So improving your performance is going to require you to have a very kind of structured approach to data tracking, right? You're going to see on this podcast, I'm going to hammer this home to you guys. Tracking your data is incredibly important, and you then must be able to identify, the areas for improvement by analyzing that data, right? So you can invest in refining your sales training and things of that nature, but until you're able to increase the number of appointments you have, that sales training isn't going to be able to actually be used. One thing that we'll speak about on later episodes is role playing and using that to be able to train your sales reps. And yes, role playing is essential. It's great, but there's nothing like being in an actual home as a sales rep with commission on the line, a little bit of pressure on you. That's going to teach you even more than the role play, right? So if you're able to generate high quality appointments cheaper, then even if you're not closing them because your sales process isn't perfect, at the very minimum, at least you're getting more reps so that in 3 months' time, you're going to be able to increase that close percentage because of the, let's say, new strategies that you're bringing in. So to give you guys kind of some actionable things to think about moving forward, you should track as much data as you can. That's actually useful. But at a very, very bare minimum, in my opinion, you need to be able to track the following. And this is across each lead source, right? This is going to be across Google Ads. It's going to be across SEO. It's going to be across Facebook. It's going to be across direct mail campaigns. You need to understand your cost per lead, right? How much are you guys actually paying to acquire the leads from these different channels? You need to track conversion metrics, right? That's going to be a couple of different things. It's going to be the rates from lead to appointments to sales, right? If we just kind of take the granular steps of each of the customer journey, which, let's say that's lead to appointment, appointment to close. And then, for example, I think another thing that people don't consider is kind of, gross close to net close, if that makes sense. So the idea of like how many of those people that close, and let's say you guys are doing finance or actually getting finance, maybe you'll find that, tons and tons of Facebook ads are not able to get finance jobs, whereas your Google ads are. That's like a little thing that you could potentially impact your profitability. Those are things that you should track, but at bare minimum, lead to appointment and then appointment to close, you need to track. And then finally, the job profitability, right? So for me, you need to have a system in place. This is what a lot of companies don't have. Yes, you might track whether, your estimated job costs or your actual job costs, right? From a job to job basis. But are you tracking what that looks like over a 6, 12 month basis? Are you tracking that over a 3 to 5 year basis? Because if you're not, you're missing out on a huge opportunity to be able to be more profitable in your sales, because maybe you guys are focusing on jobs from a gut feeling that sound good and feel good, but in reality, if you actually had the data, they're not the most profitable for you as a business, right? So making sure that you're tracking those at a bare minimum. And again, feel free, again, I'm on email, I'm on LinkedIn. If you want a longer list of things you should be tracking as a business, feel free to reach out and I'll happily shoot that over to you guys, right? And the third topic that I think is really underutilized and underspoken about is that retaining a customer and getting a repeat buyer is going to be a lot more cost effective, significantly more cost effective than actually getting new ones, right? And that's across closed deals and deals that aren't closed, right? We'll talk about that in a second. So, in an ideal world, right? And if you're a company that's going to be as profitable as possible, a strong percentage of your total company revenue should come from repeat or referral business, right? So if you're a kitchen or bathroom or just a remodeler, right? And yes, if you do a kitchen, you're not going to have to do another kitchen for 20 years, right? Or however long the kitchen lasts. So you're not going to be able to do a ton of repeat business. But what you can do is if you're a kitchen remodeler, you may be able to do a bath remodel in 2 years down the road, right? So making sure you're staying top of mind and letting them know that you offer those services is going to be important. If you are a bathroom remodeler, for example, then yes, you may not be able to do a repeat job anytime soon, but you can get referral business. And tons of companies that are doing millions upon millions of dollars worth of revenue every single year, when I speak to them, I say, okay, take me through the process of trying to get referrals for your business. They ask, and that's really it, right? You need to be able to, beyond providing that kind of great customer service and things of that nature, to be able to get that referral, you need to have two things in place, in my opinion. You need to be able to be consistently following up with your, even your clients that you've already serviced, so that you can stay top of mind for them for future jobs and for referrals. But you also need to have a structured referral program, right? So many contractors are missing out on opportunities because they're not kind of maintaining that relationship and having that structured process to be able to get those referrals. So what does that actually mean? What is an effective referral program? Again, we can do a whole episode on that, and we may do in the future. But the kind of three points of that, to me, is having clear incentives. So either you're going to have discounts, you're going to have gift cards, you're going to have kind of service upgrades for referrals, right? Yes, you may lose money for that customer, but when you do the calculations, the money you're going to gain from a new customer is going to be far more than what you're going to lose in discounts, gift cards, and service upgrades, right? It needs to be very easy to take part in, right? You need to have a system in place that makes it easy for your past customers to be able to refer their friends and to be able to get the benefits, right? There are tons of solutions online. Again, you don't have to come to us, right? We don't offer a referral system, but there are tons of people. Again, shoot me a message if you want me to give you specific partners that I would recommend. There are tons and tons of programs online that make it really, really simple for your customers to be able to refer, and it kind of makes it a little bit interactive. There are games and things of that nature, spin the wheel to be able to get different discounts, which just kind of make it a little bit more engaging and fun for people. And then the last thing will be to have, exclusive benefits, right? Make sure that for people that are frequent referrers, people that refer 2, 3, 4 people, that they get exclusive VIP treatment. You make it clear that they do, right? And you actually need to make it worth their time, right? Have a process in place so that your referral program is built out. Because if you can, again, get a referral for every 3 jobs, for example, 5 jobs that you do, you're adding such a large percentage of additional revenue into your business that you may have not had if you didn't have that process, right? So, in that kind of retention and referral process, that's kind of one of the main areas that, as we spoke about earlier, I think that direct mail does remain kind of effective, right? Yes, for example, if you have a newsletter is great over email, and I think you should send them over email, but having a physical newsletter with pictures of past projects and updates and new members of the team and things of that nature, that is, going to be potentially even more powerful, right? Because it's kind of in their hands, right? So just kind of make sure that, in terms of your kind of customer and retention, your customer retention and referral program, that, at a bare minimum, you have, these things in place. Make sure that post projects, you guys are following up, right? I want to make sure that you guys are kind of gauging, how well have you guys done? How satisfied are they? Get reviews and feedback from the clients, which serves 2 purposes. A, you can make sure that, from a project to project basis, you understand, which members of your team are following your SOPs and providing the client experience that you want, so that, if you need to kind of, let people go or kind of give people a kick up the butt to be able to provide that better customer experience, you can. You can also be able to incentivize your team on these reviews, right? And again, I would personally recommend to kind of do that a bit privately, right? If you kind of let people know that, hey, we incentivize you based off of the feedback you get from customers, and it's very easy for people to kind of pressure customers and ask and kind of tarnish the brand a little bit through doing that. But again, having those feedbacks, and then also asking for reviews then and there once the project is done is very, very important. Because again, if someone, for example, has a brand new kitchen, it's beautiful, they had a great experience, they're most likely to give you that review, kind of like speed to lead. They're most likely to give you that review within that first week. And if you wait, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, they're just kind of, again, the chance of them giving you that review is less. I personally believe that it's important for you guys to give, seasonal check-ins, right? So making sure that whenever your kind of busy period is, you're sending in, that newsletter, you're providing offers, right, to be able to capitalize on the fact that there's a kind of a peak renovation season upcoming. But also, there are little touch points, whether it be kind of actual seasons, whether it be holidays, right, that you can have these check-ins with your clients so that it's not forced, it's natural. Whether it's, sending them a Valentine's card, for example, or sending them a Christmas card, for example. These are little natural ways you can stay top of mind. I also think that, again, especially within this industry, social media engagement is really, really important. So one thing that I recommend to, our clients that we're kind of consulting around this stuff is try your best to, as part of your kind of onboarding process, as part of your project process, if they do have social media, if they do have Facebook, if they do have Instagram, try and get those details from them. And I'll tell you why. Because yes, you want to take a referral and, you want to take your case studies and you want to put them on your website, right? You want to put your case studies on platforms like YouTube and wherever you can get your case studies. But a very, very powerful way to get organic referrals without having to, have your client actually kind of directly refer them to you and hence kind of have to give them all of these benefits that come with it, is that if you can post a project, get their permission, post a project, and you can tag them in the project and just ask them to repost it. Now, if they have 800 followers and 200 of them are in the local area, you now have 200 eyeballs potentially. Let's say half of them see the post. You have 100 eyeballs on your project, and maybe 2 or 3 of them are looking for a renovation, right? And let's say those 3 people are Sally, Oscar, and Mark. Sally, Oscar, and Mark didn't have your client reach out to them, right? They just kind of saw the social media post and they went, wow, this is a beautiful kitchen. And this is their Instagram, okay? They click on the post, they follow you guys on Instagram because you guys, are on top of your social media. You guys are posting every now and again. And now you've got another kind of lead that you're warming up that in a month's time may actually reach out to you and you haven't spent $1 in marketing for, right? And they reach out to you to get their kitchen done, right? Again, I think that's important that you guys ideally have social media engagement as part of your kind of post-project sequence. And then the final thing is exclusive offers, right? Making sure that for your return customers, right, for your referred customers, you give these guys priority booking. The reason why is because you didn't pay for those leads, right? It's going to be a more profitable job, right? So if you can kind of get them priority into your booking cycle, if you can kind of move your schedule around to fit them in, those are going to be the most profitable jobs, right? So in recap, in terms of the 3, for me, biggest mistakes that, we see with sales systems, it's that speed to lead, making sure that when leads come in, you're making sure you're taking care of them quickly, right? Making sure that for those leads that you're generating, you're tracking that kind of marketing performance so that you're able to generate more appointments, you're able to get your sales reps more opportunities to train, you're able to keep them happier through, them getting commissions, they feel like they can grow within the company. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is through knowing exactly what's going on with your marketing data. Yes, marketing is not sales, but having that marketing and that kind of appointment deal flow is incredibly, incredibly important to having a successful sales engine. And the third thing is thinking about, taking the leads that you generate, taking the customers that you've already generated, These are all things that you've paid for, and making sure you squeeze as much juice out of each of those leads, out of each of those customers as possible, because that is the cheapest, easiest, and most effective way to scale. Yes, as we said, generating more leads and having your marketing systems optimized is great, and it's very, very important. But oftentimes, to be able to generate more leads, you need to be able to spend more money, right? And if you're a company that's not really operating at a particularly strong margin right now, maybe that's not very attractive to you. So if that's the case that you're in at the moment, or maybe you don't want to have to hire a marketing expert who may or may not be able to do a good job for you to be able to help, then what you need to do is take a look at your existing client base, your existing lead base, and think, how can I get as much juice, as much revenue out of this database as possible, right? So listen, guys, that's it for episode 1. Listen, if you got value from this, I ask you just to kind of share this with someone, within the remodeling industry or the home improvement industry that you think kind of would benefit from hearing this. If you want to reach out, you can email me at jiwoo@elevatemarketinggroup.co.uk. That will be in the show notes, and feel free to also follow me on LinkedIn and shoot me a message if you want. I'd love to kind of hear your thoughts about the podcast or kind of anything that you want to talk about. And of course, last but not least, please make sure that you follow the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes, and we'll see you in the next one.